Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United.
As we go, who's better ability-wise in terms of in between Rashford and Martial? It's a big debate that's been going on Twitter this week, especially with Martial looking to take Rashford's place while he's out injured. So on the top line, I'm fairly confident in saying we've got the Rashfords, and on the bottom line, I'm fairly confident in saying we've got the Martials. So I'll go to you first, Mark. Why? Well, I'm assuming it is Rashford. I think I'm right in believing that. If so, why?
Listen, I don't dislike Martial. I think he's got a huge amount of potential, but I don't think he's given us enough over the years. His link-up play is excellent. His movement off the ball is pretty good, and I think he's a different player to Rashford. But what I feel is Rashford, he's not quite world class at all. However, the one thing that he needs to improve on is decision making. I think we saw too many times this season his decision making where we were shouting at him to shoot and or to make the pass. He did the opposite on a few occasions. But I think that if he gets that, which really comes with experience, I think that you will see the full finished article. With Martial, I think that there isn't an attitude problem. As I said, I've got nothing against him whatsoever. I just feel that too many times now we've seen Sanchez come in, Ibrahimovic come in, Lukaku come in, and he seems to drop off. Now, for me, we want to. A lot of people want to talk about Pogba and it being disappointing he move on, but he hasn't been consistent enough. And the people that want to talk about not being consistent enough are correct. He hasn't been consistent enough. And I feel that Martial really probably should be tarnished with the same brush a little bit. I think Rashford, it's very difficult to make that comparison. I think you have to look at what their strengths are, what they bring to the table. And I think they are ever so slightly different, really. But I think on their days, Rashford will produce a far better game on that left-hand side.
Yeah. So it's a fair point. Let us know in the comments who you think is better. Let's go about it in terms of ability, we'll say, because I think when you bring in other factors, it gets a bit complicated. But Charlie, I'll come to you. Why is Martial the better player?
Well, if you actually, because I'm going to start with, because the modern game seems to all be, I don't like it, but statistics are hugely important. I know Stu doesn't like it either, but I'm not a big fan of it. But obviously, if you're an attacking player, the first thing that people are going to judge you on is goals and assists. Now, if you actually look at the comparisons between Rashford and Martial in those areas, a goal or assist per minute in the Premier League since they both came to they both started playing for Man United, Martial has a better goal or assist per minute ratio than Rashford does. But I don't need that to I don't need that to say that Martial is a more talented player. I think Marcus Rashford's a good player, but I think Martial has more ability, more natural ability. I think that his link-up play is better. I think his decision-making is better. I don't think his runs in behind are better. I think Rashford's better at that. I think they both have different attributes than each other. But I think the main reason why you've seen Rashford play well with Bruno Fernandes, I think I think they're on the same wavelength. Bruno is always looking for that ball in behind, always. Rashford always wants it. Where I think Martial is a little bit more patient with his game. I think he has better decision making. I think he knows better and more often when to pass, when to shoot, when it's not on, when it is on. And very few footballers that I watch nowadays are clever enough to know when to shoot or when to pass. And I think Martial has that. I think he did dip when Cavani came. I think he does sulk at times. I think I'm not going to, even he's one of my favourite players, I'm not going to, negate that fact. I think he does sulk at times. The work rate point, I wouldn't agree with. I think that if you actually watch, Martial gets back into and provides a better team shape more often than Rashford does defensively. You might not see him run as much, but actually defensively he does more for the team, in my opinion. And if you were to say to me, the Europa League final, who was the biggest miss? Everyone would go, oh, Harry Maguire, Harry Maguire. I think Anthony Martial was a huge miss in that final. And the reason being that we had Rashford, Bruno, Greenwood, Cavani, four, not a bad thing, but four greedy players who always want to look for the goal. Not a bad thing. We need those players. But if you look at Liverpool, the front three, you got Firmino, less greedy, Salah Mane, more greedy. You look at the Manchester City team, they have exactly the same thing. You need a mix of greedier players and a mix of players who are more willing to be patient and understand when to pass, when to shoot. And Martial has that. Not happy with his consistency, but I'll ask everybody this question in the comments as well. You cannot name one player since Sir Alex left that has been, other than De Gea, that has been consistent performance-wise for 2 or 3 seasons in a row. The only player is De Gea, and he's not consistent anymore. So the idea that he hasn't been consistent, you could put that on Pogba, Rashford, Lindelof, every single player that we've had. We've only really had De Gea who's been consistent. So ability-wise for me, I think Martial is a better player. But to be honest with you, my best 11 will probably contain them both, really, going into a lot of games, because I think their link-up play together is excellent. So it's not for me, sort of disregarding one or the other. For me, I like both of them. But I think Martial is a more talented player.
Fair enough. Eloquently put as ever, Charlie. And I think that is important to state as well. With this debate, we're not in any way trying to sort of discredit one player over the other or anything like that. That we both think they're both incredible players in their own right. But Stu, when it comes to your own sort of trademark of poser and what categorises as a poser, I'd imagine in your mind Martial fits into that pretty perfectly. So do you want to just talk us through your thoughts on the situation?
He does, actually. Look, I look at it from, if I was playing in the same 11, one week and Martial was playing, the next week Rashford was playing, I would look at the player that frustrates me the most during the 90 minutes. So I'm not questioning ability, because I think ability-wise, I think Martial just about tops Rashford. But from a work rate point of view, I think Rashford just tips Martial. But when you look at their overall game, they're both top draw. So I would look at it as what would frustrate me in a 90-minute game of football if I was a CDM or I was playing as an 8. And I think Martial would bother me the most, because during a game of football, it's all about 90 minutes. It's about what you do in those 90 minutes or 70 minutes, however long you're on there. And far too often, Martial's seen walking. Now, I'm not saying Rashford isn't, but far too often Martial is seen walking. And he does look disinterested. And he's not particularly good, or he hasn't been particularly good of late, of running off the shoulder, nor is Rashford, to be fair. When they're both on their game, they run off the shoulder pretty well. So they played the last man very, very well. And I think this has been one of the issues that we've had, certainly Pogba, for example, and certainly Fernandes, is that these guys, for whatever reason, have stopped playing to their own strengths and have started to, play within themselves. Now, we all know Rashford's been injured for 12 months, probably even longer than that. So that might be a contributing factor to his downfall. Look, I don't really buy that a professional footballer sulks because we're bringing in a Cavani type player or a Sancho type player. You need to pull your finger out your arse and get on with it. That's what being a professional footballer is about. What Martial and Rashford have got to do this season, certainly Martial, he's got to want to perform. I talk about it all the time. I talk about desire all the time. And you've got to have that desire. When you're in a squad of players, when you're out on that pitch, you've got to have that desire, because if you're running around, along with 9 of your colleagues, and one of them is body language isn't quite right, doesn't really want to put a tackle in, certainly won't, go in for a 50-50 header or something along those lines, it really, really angers you. And that is the tipping point for me, is who would frustrate me the most. And unfortunately, it would be Martial.
Sorry, I didn't realise you were going to cut off so suddenly.
A bit of a different take on it, but that's how I would view it, because you can't, ability-wise, I think it is there or thereabouts. And we've seen Rashford at his best. I mean, he's just unplayable at times, and so is Martial. But so I would look at it that way. And there's times when I've been watching either in the stadium or at home, and I'd have wringed Martial's neck if I was out on that pitch. So
would have killed him.
Yeah.
Stu would have been one of the killers that he wants to sign. I love your cynical view on it as well. It's who do I hate the least more than anything. But
absolutely.
But Connor, I know you're not the biggest fan of Rashford on the pitch, so why are you in favour of Martial?
There's a big kind of myth that Rashford's work rate is exceptional. Now, if you actually watch him over 90 minutes, he walks around the pitch exactly the same way people accuse Martial of doing. The difference with Rashford is you'll see him do almost like repetitive sprints every 15, 20 minutes. You'll see him chase down a player, chase down the right back to the centre after the goalkeeper, which is not always Ashley Young used to do that, so let's not kid ourselves, that's a brilliant thing to do all the time. It goes back to decision making. Now, I disagree with Mark that it comes with experience. Football intelligence, I think you either got it or you haven't. I don't think it can necessarily be something that can be taught. And I think when it comes down to actual football intelligence, Martial is clear. I don't think it's as close as people think. Rashford is a very good player, and don't get me wrong, I think he is. The numbers suggest that. But Higuain's got good numbers. Does that mean we want to be bringing him into the side? Because, I wouldn't. Now, I understand what Stu's saying. Who would frustrate you more on the pitch? But at the same time, when we're talking about football intelligence, we literally just had that discussion about Neves. Who fits the team better? In my opinion, Martial fits the team better. And if you had somebody, the link-up that he had down that left-hand side, and if you signed somebody like a Neves, we saw the link-up that he had with Pogba, and that worked very, very well. And I think Rashford is still a very key part of this team. When he comes off the bench against a tired defence, was it Leipzig when he came on and scored that hat-trick in the second half? Because he came on against a tired defence, and that's when he looks absolutely scintillating. And it sounds like I'm really going in on him here, and I don't like this kind of negative way that I'm viewing this, but I also don't buy this that the injury it's kind of really hindered him. We've been seeing this from Rashford before the injury as well. And I'm sorry, if the injury is as bad as everyone is saying it is, and Rashford is saying it is, he should have got this sorted earlier. I get it. He's a Mancunian lad. He wants to play for the team. But at the end of the day, you've got to think about the team. His performances wasn't good enough towards the back end of the season, so he should have got that fixed. And if he goes into next season without getting that surgery that he says that he needs, I've got no sympathy, because he's got a chance now, and he had a chance in the summer to get this sort. Well, we're still in the summer, but he had a chance to get it done then. So I would take Martial over Rashford, just because I think he's got a better football intelligence, and I don't think that's something you can teach. But like everyone said, it's not Rashford's rubbish, let's get rid of him, or Martial's rubbish, let's get rid of him, because I think both of them can be very effective. Their best season, or the best that they've worked for the team for me, is when they were alternating on that left-hand side. One would start, the other one would come on and really tire out that left-hand side. So he's definitely, I'm not saying get rid of him, and I think it has sounded like a bit of a Rashford hate speech from me, but I can assure you I still think he's a brilliant player. But if you're asking me who I would take in the starting 11 going into next season, it would be Martial on the left-hand side.
So it's a fair point. I'll take that. I suppose I'll round off the Rashford debate then, because I think they both definitely got their flaws. They're both capable of going missing for 90 minutes. I won't doubt that. Rashford, we've seen, can be a frustrating player to watch, as can Martial. I think the big thing I have against Martial is he just seems so scared of any sort of competition or conflicts. Like was raised earlier, every time a striker has come in or someone who can challenge him in that position, he's fallen off completely. He just doesn't look bothered. Sanchez came in. Martial didn't want to know. Zlatan came in. Obviously, he had a fight with Zlatan about his shirt number, of all things, before the season, and that seemed to affect him a little bit as well. Lukaku came in, didn't really want to know. He had a good sort of first half of the season. And then Cavani's come in, and again, he just hasn't. Before his injury, he was woeful this season. This was his worst season at United, in my opinion. So that's what worries me about Martial. Unless you make him the star man up front, he doesn't want to form, it seems, and you can't make him the star one up front because he's not the best player up front. That's the difference we have. And I also look at it in the way that if we've got 10 minutes left in a game, regardless of what game it is, and you have Martial and Rashford on the bench, if I were to bring one player on to get us a goal or create something or have an impact on this game, I'm bringing on Rashford. You know, the goals and assists speak for themselves. I don't want to use goal involvements in this argument because it's based on ability, but that is a big part of the game in terms of who's going to have that impact. I just don't think Martial is as big of an impact player as Marcus Rashford. You know, and I think they can both be classed as impact players because I think, like I said, they have a tendency to go missing. They're not involved in the whole game. Neither of them are. I won't doubt, you know, Martial definitely has abilities that are better than Rashford. His close dribbling, probably his finishing as well is better. But Rashford's ability to create a chance for himself, his passing abilities is very underrated. His power, his speed, his aerial abilities, I think it trumps Martial. Yeah, I think he trumps Martial in all of those departments. So that would be why I'd go with Rashford. But again, I really hope we see the best of Martial this season because I'm a big fan of his, and it just doesn't feel right him not performing as well as we can. But I'll come to you, Henry, just to make it even on the Martial debate. So what are you saying about it?
Well, it's interesting we're talking about attitude as well. Ability-wise, at the moment, I think Martial's clear. I just think when it comes to raw talent, he's genuinely a better player. Better finisher, more clinical when it comes to being in and around the 18-yard box. He's just, again, I just think he's better in and around there. If you want a goal, I'd say you go with him. Last 10 minutes when players are tired, Rashford, completely fair enough. But last season, I'm still not quite sure what happened with him last season. He took to running into players instead of running around them, which was really frustrating. And his attitude, it was awful. It really was. I'm sorry. I'm not buying that one's got worse attitude than the other. They both stink, to be honest. And I remember I did the podcast with James, and he was, sat in like aghast. I was going in on Rashford after the Sheffield United game, but he was walking. He was pointing at other people. You do this, I'm just going to stand there. I've got a video of him standing while two players run past him and pointing and going, "It's your job." So I'm not buying that he's, his attitude's fantastic and that, he's always the golden child. I'm not having that. So I'm at the moment, ability-wise, Martial, I think Rashford's got a really high ceiling. And if he can reach that, it could be fantastic. Sancho could be really good for him. But at the moment, Martial would deliver if you really, really needed a goal in a tight space. I think Martial delivers, and again, Rashford needs this operation, but I'm not buying that as an excuse for attitude. If you're slightly injured, it doesn't mean that you can't run. He's clearly fit enough to play the games. He's clearly fit enough to run around the pitch. So why can't he make a tackle? Why can't he get stuck in? His attitude last season stank. It was awful. I'm sorry. I'm not. I know everyone loves him, but I'm not. I'm the same with every other player. If their attitude stinks, it stinks. And both of them, they do my head in when I watch them play, because you think, you've got so much potential, and you're not quite fulfilling it. James, quickly, you mentioned the Ibrahimovic thing. I'm just going to wade in quickly on that. Sancho has come in and taken a number 25. Do you think Cavani would be happy if Sancho came in and nabbed his number 7? Do you think he'd be happy? He's got a season.
I don't think he's petulant enough to really let it bother him.
I think he signed another deal away from his family. Martial's brand is Martial 9. He's known as the number 9. He's United's number 9. I'm pretty sure he was he was trying to brand that at Monaco as well. He really wanted to be the number 9, the one of the best players for United. And I think Ibrahimovic coming in and just taking it off him, it's going to unsettle you a little bit, isn't it? Would you, if someone came in and we got another midfielder and he went, right, I'm having a number 10 off Rashford. Do you think that would make him happy? I think it does play a part. I don't think it's a big attitude problem, but I think if someone comes in and takes your number off you just almost by force, which it was, then I think you have every right to be a little bit pissed off. I would be if I was, I play as a keeper. If I'm a keeper and someone goes in and goes, right, I'm having your number 1 shirt, I go, what the fuck are you doing? No, you're not. I'm sorry. As a having played, I understand his frustration with that, and it would, a number is to players, a number is sacred. It genuinely is.
Well, can you use that same excuse for when Sanchez came in, when Lukaku came in, when Cavani came in? 2 of those players aren't number 9. I get Lukaku took the number off of Zlatan, but he's not performed when any of them have come in.
Yeah, but this is it's partly a competition thing, which I think is partly an issue. But I do think it genuinely plays a part in a mentality of a player. If he wouldn't, if someone come in and took your shirt as a number 9, and he's now the number 9, not you, do you feel wanted at a club? Do you feel happy at a club? You've got 2 options. You're either a bit of misery guts, or you're determined to go and prove someone wrong. Martial's attitude is he's a bit down when things don't go well for him. He puts his head down. So the best thing to do when someone has that kind of attitude issue is to go and take his number off him. I think it was a rash move from I think it was Mourinho at the time, wasn't it? Yeah. I think it was such a Mourinho thing to do. Come in and take someone's number off him, and it's like, I'm the dominant man here, not you. And it's I thought that was really poor from him and the club.
Yeah, I think I will agree. Like, it is a point. It's obviously going to have an effect. I think the only thing that goes against him is, like I said, with the other players that have come in. But I know, Connor, you really quickly wanted to add on this.
Yeah, just very quick. There's this discussion that it might have unsettled him. It didn't. Look at the him. That's why I was making the point. Him and Rashford in that season, when they were alternating off the left, were very good. So I don't understand this whole thing that he was unsettled. He clearly wasn't, because he was playing, and it was only the Sanchez signing when he was kicked out of the team that that would piss me off. If you've got this player coming in, I get it. He was a big money guy, Alexis Sanchez coming in. That would piss me off if I was playing well up to that point, which he was, and then just getting kicked out of the team. So I get that frustration, but I don't buy this. Oh, he switched off because of a shirt number thing, because he didn't. Because him and Rashford were very, very good on that left-hand side together when they were alternating. So that's all I wanted to say on that. I just didn't agree that it affected Martial's performance, because I just don't think it did.